Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro came out in October this year. Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro is a real beast considering its performance to price ratio. It's got a massive 6.67-inch 1080p screen with Corning Gorilla Glass 5 but no water protection. Its power comes from an octa-core CPU and an impressive 8GB of RAM. The memory is the standard for today's use and it offers either 128GB or 256GB. And this is the most anticipated part, the camera. It's got a colossal 108 megapixel wide camera, followed by a 13 megapixel ultra wide and 5 megapixel macro camera, a standard LED flash and a maximum resolution of 8K at 30 frames per second. And speaking of cameras, its selfie camera is a rather lower grade 20 megapixel camera capable of recording just 1080p at 30 frames per second. The battery of the phone is a quite massive 5000 mAh with fast charging option of 33 watts and no reverse charging. Also, another thing worth mentioning is that it's got a side-mounted fingerprint scanner. Yep, no on the screens yet. And finally, a price tag. Its release price was around $600, which isn't that bad for a phone of these proportions. But anyway, it could be improved in terms of a selfie camera, slow motion feature and wireless charging at least. The Samsung S20 Ultra came out in February this year. The S20 Ultra was a total sensation and not without a reason. With an outstanding 6.9-inch 1400p 120Hz at Full HD screen, it's rather a large phone. It's protected with both Gorilla Glass 6 in front and a back glass and IP68 dust and water resistance, so you could basically take it to the desert and wash it with water afterwards. Powered by the latest octa-core CPU and amazing 12GB of RAM, it sure has the ability to shoot 8K videos, but internal storage is a rather pathetic 128GB. The main camera is an absolute beast, shooting 108 megapixel raw images and 8K videos, but for now only in 24 frames per second. As for now, the ultra slow motion stays the same with 960 frames per second at 720p, which is a downside when having a latest ultra expensive phone. But a good side would be its improved selfie camera that now has a 40 megapixel and is capable of shooting 4K at even 60 frames per second. They also removed the 3.5mm jack, so no more standard headphones. And speaking of biometrics, there's an under-screen fingerprint scanner which is quite safe under its scratch-resistant glass. The battery also got its improvement compared to the previous S10 and it's now 5000 mAh, charged with super fast 45 watts, and it's also got a 15 watts wireless charging with even reverse wireless charging option available. And finally, the price. It's around $1000 when it was released, but that's a quiet Samsung, we have to admit. Remember that last year you paid similar price for a phone with half a capacity. The Asus Zenfone 7 Pro came out in August this year. The Zenfone is the latest brew in Asus factory with a great performance. Equipped with a large 6.67-inch 1080p screen, it's no smaller than its competitors. It's protected by Gorilla Glass 6 on front, but only a Gorilla Glass 3 in the back panel, so be careful with scratches. Powered by an octa-core which became a standard many years back, and rather recent forced 8GB of RAM, it's decently balanced out. It comes in 256GB of memory only, but it's enough as you're able to stick a memory card in it for additional space. Now when it comes to cameras, it has the same 64 megapixel camera we could see on Galaxy S20, which peaks at 8K 30 frames per second. And all three combined are capable of shooting 4K up to astonishing 120 frames per second and 8K at 30 frames per second. And the best part is that it rotates, so what you have in the back also becomes your selfie once you flip it. Speaking of battery, it's a 5000 mAh like we saw in the previous two phones, and it's a rather fast 30-watt charge, but like some of the latest inventions like a fast reverse charging and more common wireless charging. But yes, you can reverse charge it, but only if you don't mind connecting a cable to it. And now the price tag. It's $900 when it was just released, and it's just around $300 more expensive than Xiaomi Mi T10 Pro, but I would say not without a reason, because Xiaomi has a mere 1080p 30 frames per second front camera, while at the Zenfone they did the most economic clever thing and put motorized cameras so you can enjoy your 8K or 4K 120 frames per second selfie videos while logging or gaming for YouTube. Still think those extra $300 are too much? Think again. The LG V60 thing came out in October this year. The LG V60 is the best creation from LG. Once again, life's good. If you comes with a standard 1080p screen, this time it's large 6.8-inch one. But what's more interesting, they put more effort in protecting the rear glass than protecting your screen. Yes, on the front you have Gorilla Glass 5, while on the back you have Gorilla Glass 6. But a good thing is that it's dust and water resistant, so even if you drop it somewhere, your only concern would be the scratches. Its power comes from a standard octa-core CPU and a good-looking 8GB of RAM, but combined with only 128GB of space, which in my opinion is a huge concern because it sure won't let you record your highest resolution videos directly on your SD card, or at least my Galaxy S9 isn't letting me do it. So it's a rather medium drawback with a phone like this. Other than that, we see a standard 8K 64MP camera which will do 8K at 30 and 4K at 60 frames per second, while at the front it peaks at 4K 30 frames per second. Unlike the previous three phones, this one does have a headphone jack, so you can stick the $2 headphones on your LG flagship. And as for the fingerprint scanner, it's the same on the screen one like we saw in the S20 Ultra, but it's optical rather than ultrasonic. And speaking of battery, it's the same 5000 mAh one just like the previous three phones have, but capable of wireless charging unlike the Zenfone 7 Pro and Xiaomi Mi T10 Pro. The price is rather okay, being around $900 when it was released. So there you have it, the top 4 different smartphone makers that are capable of shooting 8K videos. Make sure to vote which one is the best one you would choose, and don't forget to tell your opinions down below in the comment section. And if you think one of those should be your next phone, don't forget to check out the links I put in the description of this video where jerry-rig everything testing phones, providing you with the first-hand information about the durability and overall quality of each phone. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more good content and support me on my way to 1000 subscribers, which will enable monetization. And as always, see you soon.